Welcome to Health 2660. Here we don't just talk about health, we tell the stories that heal. Now please listen to the story. My name is Richard, and I'm 62 years old. I live just outside of Austin, Texas, in a modest but comfortable home with my wife Susan. We've been married for 38 years, raised three wonderful kids, who are now grown with families of their own, and I've spent most of my life running a small landscaping business. I've always been a hard worker, someone who prided himself on his energy and ability to keep going even when things got tough. But over the past few years, something started to change. A slow, insidious decline that I initially attributed to simply getting older. It started subtly. A little more tired than usual after a day of hauling mulch and trimming hedges. A slight fogginess in the morning that would linger for hours, making it hard to focus. Random headaches that would strike after lunch, seemingly out of nowhere. Even the extra pounds that seemed to stubbornly cling to my waist no matter how much I tried to exercise. I chalked it all up to age. It's normal, I told myself. This is what happens when you get older. I figured I was just slowing down, and I needed to accept it. I tried to adjust my lifestyle accordingly. I started going to bed earlier, drinking more coffee, and even attempting some of those fad diets I saw advertised on TV. Nothing seemed to work. The fatigue persisted, the fog remained, and the weight wouldn't budge. In fact, it seemed to be getting worse. I'd come home from work completely drained. Not just tired, but utterly exhausted. Like I couldn't even make it to the dinner table without collapsing onto the couch. My patience grew shorter, and I'd find myself snapping at Susan over the smallest things. A misplaced dish, a forgotten errand, anything would set me off. And sometimes, after eating lunch, the fogginess would be so intense that I'd forget appointments, misplace my keys, or even struggle to remember what day it was. It was frightening. I started to worry that something was seriously wrong. Susan noticed the changes before I did, of course. She always had a keen eye for detail, a way of seeing things that I often missed. "Rich," she said one night, as we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, "you haven't been yourself lately. You're tired all the time. You're irritable, and you just don't seem present." I brushed it off, telling her it was just stress from work. But she wasn't convinced. "I think it's time for a checkup," she said, her voice soft but firm. "It's been a while, and it wouldn't hurt to make sure everything's okay." I didn't want to go. I hated doctors. Always had. The sterile smell, the long waits, the prodding and poking. It all made me uncomfortable. But something about the way Susan said it, soft but serious, made me realize she was genuinely concerned. And deep down, I knew she was right. I needed to get checked out. So the next day, I reluctantly picked up the phone and made an appointment with Dr. Patel, our family physician. A week later, I found myself sitting in his waiting room, sipping lukewarm, terrible coffee and staring blankly at the generic landscape print on the wall. The waiting room was filled with the usual assortment of patients: elderly folks with walkers, young mothers with restless children, and a handful of people like me looking vaguely uncomfortable and out of place. I flipped through a dog-eared copy of National Geographic, trying to distract myself from the anxiety that was building inside me. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the nurse called my name. "Richard Miller," she said, her voice echoing through the room. "Dr. Patel will see you now." I followed her down a narrow hallway, past a series of examination rooms, until we reached Dr. Patel's office. He was a kind-faced man with a warm smile and a gentle demeanor. He always made me feel at ease, even though I dreaded these appointments. He walked in with a clipboard, his eyes scanning my chart. "Well, Richard," he said, looking up with a smile, "how are we doing today?" I shrugged. "Okay, I guess. Just feeling a little run down lately." He nodded, making a note on his clipboard. "Susan tells me you've been more tired than usual." I sighed. "Yeah, it's been rough. I thought it was just age, but Susan thinks it might be something more." Dr. Patel chuckled. "Age is a factor, of course, but it's always good to rule out anything else. We ran some blood tests last week, and I wanted to discuss the results with you." He paused, his expression becoming slightly more serious. "Your A1C is 6.1. I blinked, confused. "My E1C? What's that?" "It's a measure of your average blood sugar over the past 3 months," he explained. "And 6.1 means you're pre-diabetic." The word hung in the air, heavy and ominous. Pre-diabetic. I'd heard the term before, but I never thought it would apply to me. Pre-diabetic. I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. "What does that even mean?" "It means," he said gently, "that your blood sugar is higher than it should be. Not high enough to be considered type 2 diabetes, but high enough to put you at risk. And if you don't make some changes, there's a 70% chance you'll develop type 2 diabetes within the next 10 years. I froze. The statistics hit me like a punch to the gut. 70%. Those were terrible odds. My father had type 2 diabetes. I remember watching him struggle with the disease for years. The constant foot pain, the blurry vision, the endless pills and injections. He eventually lost a toe to a stubborn infection that wouldn't heal. It was a slow, agonizing decline, and the thought of ending up like that terrified me. "Type 2 diabetes," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "Like my father had," Dr. Patel nodded. "It's often hereditary, yes, but it's also heavily influenced by lifestyle factors. Diet, exercise, weight. These all play a significant role." He handed me a prescription. "I'm going to prescribe metformin," he said. "It's a common medication that helps your body be more sensitive to insulin. It'll help lower your blood sugar and reduce your risk of developing diabetes." I took the prescription, feeling numb. Metformin. That was the same medication my father had taken. It felt like I was already on the same path. But, is there anything else I can do? I asked, my voice filled with desperation. "Anything besides medication," Dr. Patel sighed. "Of course, lifestyle changes are crucial. A healthy diet, regular exercise, weight loss. These can all make a big difference. But metformin will give you a head start." As I sat in my truck staring at the prescription, something didn't feel right. I knew that diet and exercise were important, but the thought of relying solely on medication for the rest of my life didn't sit well with me. I didn't want to medicate the problem. I wanted to reverse it. I wanted to get to the root cause and fix it, not just mask the symptoms. That night, after Susan had gone to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and typed into the search bar, "How to reverse prediabetes naturally." I scrolled through countless articles, blog posts, and forum discussions, feeling overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information. Most of it seemed contradictory or confusing. But then one video stood out. It featured a calm, articulate doctor with a slight Swedish accent talking about insulin-resistant sugar and the real root cause of prediabetes. He explained that prediabetes isn't just about high blood sugar, It's a sign that the body is overwhelmed. Too much insulin, too much glucose, too much processed food. The body's cells become resistant to insulin, which forces the pancreas to produce even more, leading to a vicious cycle of high blood sugar and insulin resistance. But the good news, he said, was that it was reversible. By making simple changes to diet and lifestyle, it was possible to restore insulin sensitivity, lower blood sugar, and prevent the progression to type 2 diabetes. He emphasized the importance of reducing sugar intake, eating whole unprocessed foods, and incorporating regular exercise into your routine. He also talked about the benefits of intermittent fasting, which he explained could help improve insulin sensitivity and promote weight loss. I watched the entire video twice, taking notes and feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time in weeks. This doctor's approach resonated with me. It felt more holistic, more focused on addressing the underlying causes of the problem. Right then and there, I made a decision. I was going to take control of my health and reverse this prediabetes diagnosis. No more excuses. No more half-hearted attempts at dieting. This was going to be a complete lifestyle overhaul. I started small, making one change at a time. No more soda. I'd been drinking at least 1 can a day for years, completely unaware of the sheer amount of sugar I was consuming. That was the first thing to go. No more bread with every meal. I love sandwiches, but I knew I needed to cut back on the refined carbohydrates. I started swapping bread for lettuce wraps, or simply eating my fillings without the bread. No more late-night snacks while watching TV. This was a tough one, as I had a serious sweet tooth. But I replaced my nightly ice cream or cookies with a handful of almonds or a small bowl of berries. Instead, I started simple: eggs and avocado for breakfast. This was a recommendation from the video, and it turned out to be surprisingly delicious. The protein and healthy fats kept me feeling full and energized throughout the morning. Grilled salmon and greens for lunch. Another easy and healthy option. I'd grill a large piece of salmon on Sunday and then eat it for lunch throughout the week, paired with a variety of green vegetables like spinach, kale, or broccoli. Skipping breakfast a few days a week and doing what they call intermittent fasting. This was the most challenging change, as I'd always been told that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. But after doing some research, I learned that intermittent fasting could have significant benefits for insulin sensitivity and weight loss. So I started skipping breakfast 2 or 3 times a week, eating my first meal around noon. Walking every morning. I'd always been fairly active, but I hadn't been consistent with my exercise routine lately. I committed to walking for at least 30 minutes every morning, rain or shine. It was a great way to start the day, clear my head, and get my blood flowing. Breathing exercises at night. I learned about the importance of stress management in the video. Stress can raise blood sugar levels and worsen insulin resistance. So I started practicing deep breathing exercises for 10 minutes every night before bed. It helped me relax and unwind, and it improved my sleep quality. At first, it was incredibly hard. The sugar cravings were brutal. My body was used to getting a constant stream of sugar, and when I cut it off, I experienced withdrawal symptoms like headaches, fatigue, and irritability. I remember standing in the kitchen on day 4, staring at a glazed donut that Susan had brought home from the bakery, my stomach churning with desire. I knew I shouldn't eat it, but the craving was overwhelming. I picked it up, held it to my nose, and inhaled the sweet, sugary aroma. For a moment, I almost gave in. But then I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered to myself, "This donut is not stronger than me." And I won. I put the donut back in the box and walked away. It was a small victory, but it gave me the strength to keep going. The first 2 weeks were the toughest, but slowly, gradually, things started to get easier. The cravings subsided, the headaches disappeared, and my energy levels began to improve. I started to feel like myself again. 3 weeks in the fog began to lift. The mental clarity that I had lost over the past few years started to return. I could focus again. I was more productive at work, and I was able to engage more fully in conversations. I was sleeping through the night, waking up with energy, and smiling more. Susan noticed the change immediately. "You seem lighter," she said one morning as we were having breakfast. "Like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders." I hadn't realized how far I'd slipped until I started to come back. It was like I'd been living in a fog for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to be clear-headed and energetic. After 2 months, I had dropped nearly 15 pounds. My clothes fit again, my belt was tighter, and I felt more comfortable in my own skin. I didn't need that second cup of coffee just to function. I woke up feeling refreshed and ready to tackle the day. Susan noticed the change in my mood too. "You're laughing again," she said one morning as we were driving to church. I hadn't realized I'd stopped, but she was right. I had been so preoccupied with my health problems that I had forgotten how to enjoy life. Now, I was rediscovering the simple pleasures: a good joke, a beautiful sunset, a quiet evening with my wife. At my 3-month follow-up, I walked into Dr. Patel's office feeling nervous but hopeful. I had been diligently following the diet and exercise plan, and I felt confident that I had made progress. But I knew that the only way to know for sure was to get my blood tested again. Dr. Patel greeted me with a warm smile. "So, Richard," he said, "how are you feeling?" "Great, actually," I replied. "Much better than I was 3 months ago." He looked at my chart, his eyebrows raising slightly. "Well, I must say the numbers reflect that. Let's take a look at your A1C. He paused, his eyes scanning the results. Then he looked up at me, a wide smile spreading across his face. "Well, Richard, your A1C is down to 5.5. You did it. You're no longer prediabetic." I'll never forget that moment. The relief, the joy, the sense of accomplishment, it was overwhelming. Not just because of the number itself, but because it proved that change is possible, even at 62. It proved that I had the power to take control of my health and reverse a seemingly inevitable decline. That night, I celebrated with Susan. We went out to our favorite restaurant, ordered a healthy meal, no bread, of course, and toasted to my newfound health. I also called my old friend Mike. He's 58, works long hours at a desk job, and always jokes that his body is falling apart. He's been complaining about fatigue, weight gain, and general aches and pains for years. I told him everything: the video, the diet and exercise changes, the incredible results. He listened quietly without interrupting. Then when I finished, he said, "Rich, do you think it's too late for me?" "No," I said, without hesitation. "It's never too late." I told him about the power of small changes, the importance of believing in your body's ability to heal, and the joy of taking control of your health. I encouraged him to watch the video, to try some of the diet and exercise strategies, and to schedule a checkup with his doctor. He sounded hesitant, but I could tell that he was intrigued. I think he finally realized that he didn't have to accept his current state of health, that he had the power to change things. Prediabetes is not a life sentence. It's not an inevitable march towards disease and decline. It's a warning light, a second chance, a chance to reevaluate your lifestyle, make some changes, and take control of your health. You don't need expensive supplements or complicated diets. You don't need to spend hours at the gym or starve yourself to see results. You need real food, whole unprocessed foods that nourish your body and support its natural healing processes. A little movement, regular exercise that gets your blood flowing and strengthens your muscles, and the belief that your body wants to heal. It just needs the right conditions. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I'm just a man who took back his health one meal at a time. And if I can do it, so can you. My journey wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I feel better now than I have in years. I have more energy, more mental clarity, and more joy in my life. And I'm grateful for the warning sign that prediabetes gave me. It forced me to make changes that have not only improved my health, but also enriched my life. So if you're feeling tired, foggy, or just not yourself, don't chalk it up to age. Don't accept it as the inevitable decline of getting older. Get checked out. Talk to your doctor. And if you're diagnosed with prediabetes, don't despair. It's not a death sentence. It's an opportunity to transform your health and your life. Take it. Run with it. And never give up on your body's ability to heal. Health 2660. Thanks you for listening. We'll see you in the next video. And until then, be kind to yourself.